Welcome to the Crystal Coach Show with me, your host, Anahata, helping you live every day with clarity, guidance, and practical wisdom. Are you feeling overwhelmed, anxious, maybe disconnected? Do you ever feel like you don't know how to live a life of peace and joy? I am Anahata Roach, the Crystal Coach, and during this show, we channel divine wisdom through stories of service, spirituality, and stones for self-care. The Crystal Coach Show leaves you with a feeling of connection and the clarity it takes towards becoming the best version of yourself as you hear from thought leaders and many others to help you ignite the crystalline nature of who you really are. Stay tuned. The Crystal Coach Show starts now. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Crystal Coach Show. I'm your host, Anahata Roach, and I am the Crystal Coach. Listen, get ready to explore a powerful journey today of shifting perceptions and discovering inner strength. My guest, Andrea Spadafora, will be sharing his transformational journey from focusing on external experiences and appearances to embracing inner validation of contemplated traditions. So let me tell you a little bit about him. Andrea Spadafora is a licensed and nationally board-certified massage therapist, registered yoga teacher, and the owner of Yogafora, LLC, a small, intentionally run, wellness practice based in Brentwood, Missouri. He is a longstanding American Massage Therapy Association member and has spent nearly 2 decades working at the intersection of clinical bodywork, movement education, and embodied awareness. Originally from Salerno, Italy, where he began his career in massage therapy, Andrea relocated to the United States in 2006. There, he completed his American training and has since accumulated over 30,000 hours of hands-on therapeutic experience, working with a wide range of clients and conditions. Andrea has practiced in highly regarded wellness centers in the Washington, D.C. area and in Colorado, where he served as a clinic director and lead mentor at the Academy of Natural Therapy. In that role, he also taught movement, therapy, kinesthesiology, and holistic wellness courses, becoming known for his ability to combine anatomical precision with clarity, humor, and an approachable teaching style. Andrea also hosts Yogafora Conversations, which is a long-form YouTube interview series featuring spiritual teachers, healers, creatives, and thinkers. The conversations explore embodiment, consciousness, growth, and the human experience, the same themes that inform his hands-on and teaching work. Outside the treatment room, Andrea is a devoted father to his 10-year-old son and a lifelong student of anatomy, psychology, philosophy, and contemplative traditions. He plays drums, studies the neuroscience of music, and reads extensively on devotional non-duality, an approach to spirituality centered on compassion, inner stillness, and the recognition of shared humanity. Andrea's Italian heritage remains a central influence in his work. Alongside his wellness work, he is also an Italian language tutor, interpreter, and translator. Whether through massage, yoga, teaching, conversation, or language, Andrea's work is guided by authenticity, presence, and care. His goal is straightforward: to help people feel more at home in their bodies, more connected to themselves, and a little more alive when they leave than when they arrive. Welcome to the show, Andrea.
Oh my goodness, I'm already blushing. I feel honored to be here. I gotta take a deep breath. Let's start.
That's who you are, and that's what you do. So why don't we get into the actual story behind the journey? So, okay, you grew up in Salerno, Italy, which is it's not a huge city, but it's a good sized place, is it not?
Absolutely. And it's in the Campania region. As you know, Italy has 20 regions. So it's in the southern region of Campania and is essentially connected to the Amalfi Coast, which is a very popular touristy destination.
Yes.
Destination most of the people are probably familiar with the island of Capri, the little town of Positano built on those beautiful rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the
Yes.
beaches, the food, the limoncello, the mozzarella.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Don't make me hungry. I'm hungry for real Italian food over there. Were you part of a large family, Andrea, growing
Oh,
up?
well, I was part of a small, I mean, average size family. I am the last of four boys, so I have
Mm.
three brothers and just mom and dad. So a very average middle class family. My parents did the best that they could with the structures that they inherited
Oh,
at the
sure.
time. Yeah.
Sure. What did your parents do as an occupation?
Well, my dad had the fortune of being employed at a bank. So he was directing a local branch of a local bank.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a solid, what we call lavoro a tempo determinato, which means, like those jobs that you cannot lose
Yes.
until you retire. Yeah, my mom was actually the secretary of an American company with a local branch in Italy. It's called the PPG, Pittsburgh Paint and Glass. She did
Mm.
it for about 34 years, day in and day out.
Mm.
So they were both employed, and of course, we were raised either by nannies or by immediate family members, aunts, etc.
Right. So you had a pretty wide, extended family, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's pretty common in Italy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Well, what are some of the major influences of your childhood?
Oh, definitely. And this reconnects to one of the reasons why I'm in the US today. Influences are definitely the bright lights of the United States. And what I mean by that is the most popular rock stars, movie stars. And just to name a few, I can tell you about all the rock stars that work together forming and singing and performing in the We Are the World from in 1983 or 1984. So Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Lionel Richie, etc., etc. So Michael was a very, very, very strong influence in it was my childhood idol at the time.
Wow,
He's an
cool.
incredible entertainer, a
Yes,
magic star, and will
yes,
be in my
yes.
heart. Yes.
Awesome. But what were so your influences were not local. They were, what you saw on television or whatever. What were the cultural expectations of young men when you grew up and where you grew up?
It is not as different as the ones that are available here or they're followed here.
Mm-hmm.
We go through the traditional educational model, so elementary school, middle school, high school, and then eventually you can take a path of whether you want to go to a trade school and start to work right away through manual labor, or you go to university for a much higher degree of education. Initially, I started with veterinary school, and unfortunately, the path to becoming a veterinarian was too big of a project at the time for me. So I wanted to focus on something more practical that would put me to work right away. And in my case, I chose professional massage therapy. So I went to I combined both the elements of physical therapy and massage therapy. So that's pretty
Mm.
much it. And the cultural expectations, well, of course, be a good Christian, be a good Catholic. Being Catholic is not an option. I mean, it is the predominant collective consciousness that
Mm.
kind of leads the vast majority of people all
Mm-hmm.
throughout Italy, I would say. So all
Mm-hmm.
the other religions are considered minorities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, when we had a conversation a few days ago, we were talking about how there was some cultural aspects of growing up where you did that really focused on appearances and the external and who you are and how you dress and what you look like and that kind of thing. Did that shape your perception of yourself and your world at the time?
Well, I've always been a little bit of a rebel or a black sheep because I wouldn't be wanting to conform to the general rules of whatever was going on. And definitely was impacted and influenced by, again, looking at the rock stars, the movie stars, looking up to the United States as most people say, the grass is always greener on the other
Greener.
side. So I always wanted to expand my knowledge, my views, my boundaries to something different. But yeah, so I would say that as we were discussing the other day together at our previous conversation was how we come to as adults, how we come to an understanding of relationships, especially marriages, right? We
Mm.
talked in depth about marriage, and those are rarely simple. You know, they're always dynamics. There are pressures. There is generational patterns and also unseen struggles that shape our experience of relationships, right? So we
Right.
start with the family nucleus, right? Mom, dad, brothers, and sisters, which for
Aunts and uncles
example,
and cousins and yeah, all that. Yeah.
yeah, that's technically your power base at the time.
Hmm.
That's what shapes your lens that eventually will lead you to the exploration of the world. But everything starts from the rooftop of your own family.
Yeah. So
So,
you said you had three other brothers. So did your eldest brother, did it follow the pattern of, the eldest does this, the middles do this, the youngest does this? Um, the oldest was really the one that conformed most um wholeheartedly. Did you have were there any other brothers that were kind of renegades like you?
well, here's the thing. So there's one thing is what shapes our choices is not necessarily the educational path that we choose. To give you an
Mm.
example, more practical, my first brother, Paolo, who unfortunately passed away in 2001, he was kind of had this peer pressure of having to or wanted to pursue a law degree, right?
Mm.
Because if you become a lawyer, there is the expectation that once you come out of law school, you can potentially be making good money and supporting yourself and creating a new family and essentially not live in poverty, right?
Right.
But there's also because our inner consciousness is not just one path. We are a constellation of alternative pathways. My brother instead would have been probably more successful if he pursued his heart. His
Mm.
heart into music. Music. He was a musician. He loved American jazz and jazz players. He studied guitar, both classical guitar and jazz guitar. But the risk that you run into that is that you cannot necessarily support yourself financially as an artist.
True.
So there's always been this dichotomy. Should I pursue the certain pathway, the certainty of a paycheck, or maybe a good paid job, or pursuing the uncertainty by following my heart? That's
Mm.
always been, and I think it resides in all of us. You know, we want to take risks. It's just part of the human needs, certainty. So putting the certainty and the uncertainty on this imaginary seesaw, right?
It sounds to me like Paula was a big influence on you because, you also went into music and loved music. We're more focused on music and that your heart was there too. But you didn't, and I'm sure, caring for animals was also in your heart, but
Mhm.
there was something that was tugging that was more something that you couldn't name quite yet, but you knew that that wasn't the path you wanted to go on, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like I often say, the environment you live in most often beats your own will, right?
Mm.
The peer pressure is very strong. You know, we are shaped under pressure, but sometimes the pressures are so high that really the options will narrow. So
Mm.
uh, I think that when financial resources and just like educational resources expand, so does your freedom to make the choices for yourself that lead eventually to following your own heart.
Right.
Yes.
Well, you certainly did, because the tender age of 21, which is barely legal here, you up and left your home and your country. What was the motivation for you to just pack up and leave?
Well, I would say that the biggest catalyst for change was the experiencing of a death in the family, right? And when you're young, and when you're a youngin, as you guys say in America, life seems to be infinite. Death is not even contemplated as a possibility until you're faced with it in your immediate family or immediate friend. You lose a friend. So you start to contemplate for the first time impermanence, which is also something that we daily contemplate in the art and practice of yoga. So that was the event that triggered the reaction of me wanting to find something outside of the perimeter of the small town of Salerno. I mean, it's a nice sized town, but it's still a small town compared to other bigger cities.
Like Rome, yeah.
Like Roma, Milan, of course, Firenze, Milano.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so
how did you choose your first destination and why?
it was interesting. This is actually an interesting story for the audience. I chose the first destination because I had an aunt, my dad's sister. She lived for over 50 years in Thailand, in Bangkok, right? And there was a very specific reason why she chose that venue, that place to essentially relocate. And that is because she had this calling about becoming a nun and follow the Lord, follow the word of the Lord, follow the calling of becoming a missionary nun. But my grandfather, which I had actually never met personally because he was already deceased at the time, he was opposing her to move elsewhere. And at the time, even to this day, by the way, you need to wait until your legal emancipation, aka until you turn 18, to essentially leave the house, right? So there's legal obligations written in law that you cannot circumvent. So she essentially went to live in a completely different country, not speaking the language, and building a school for more missionary nuns locally from the ground up. So she actually became a very, very big presence locally. And she eventually passed away from, of course, natural causes and dementia, etc. But
was she still alive and in Bangkok when you were 21?
yes, in fact, that was the first immediate, the first destination was to go visit her. I wanted to go and meet her and ask her questions. And by the way, I took advantage also of the trip because I also went for a month to get a Thai massage certification, which I still have. So that was my first hands-on experience with Thai massage, which is performed with a futon on the floor, clothes on, and it was my first introduction to energy work and the meridians and the chakras, etc. This was a long time ago. And then I had a 5,000 euros budget at the time, which allowed me to travel not only to Thailand, but then take a second leg, which took me to New Zealand.
That's New Zealand.
Not a work study, a study exchange program. So I went to stay at a family's home for about a month, and then I just decided to pursue what they call woofing, the wild work on the organic farms. So experiencing higher levels of freedom. I took this whole sabbatical year at the age of 21, try to figure things out, trying to give a little different meaning to life.
Yes.
And that was the time when I discovered personal development, psychology, and also spirituality. That was my very first encounter with the authors like Deepak Chopra. I can recommend a book called Synchrodestiny. That's something I actually read while in New Zealand. There's also one book that I discovered there was The Anatomy of the Spirit by Caitlin Miss, The 7 Stages of Power and Healing. which is a must read for anybody who is in this, holistic approach, healing arts.
Right, right. So that's the book that you would recommend, or is that the book that really unlocked the search in you for more?
That was Synchrodestiny.
That was Synchrodestiny.
Yeah, Synchrodestiny, because essentially it provided me an opportunity to wake up. And when I mean wake up, it means to acknowledging and recognizing the power of the here and now moment, riding the crest of the wave of the here and now moment, and acknowledging that each moment is so precious, becomes so precious, if we're able to recognize the grace that is being given to us at any moment, through the people, through nature, through jobs, but just through the energy field of life itself.
Sure, sure. Cool.
And of course, what better place to do that? You are essentially in Disneyland. It is like,
it's a beautiful country.
Yeah.
It's absolutely paradise to me.
That's why they filmed Lothlorien in the Lord of the Rings, right? It was like an alternative planet. It's really one of the lost paradises that we
It's
still
a
have
sacred
on Earth.
place.
Yes.
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break right now. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how Andrea planted his roots in the US and his story expands from there. So if people are interested in getting in touch with you, Andrea, how do they contact you?
Well, they can call my work phone, 240-645-7786. Email yogafora, yoga, PHORA, @gmail.com, or they can discover my YouTube channel, Yoga Fora, and my practice is in Brentwood, Missouri.
Right, right. Okay.
Facebook and Instagram as well. Facebook Yoga Fora, Instagram Yoga Fora.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. So don't go away.
Arrivederci.
Are you struggling with unresolved emotions or recurring patterns? Tune into Beyond Birth Trauma, From Burden to Brilliance with me, Shannon O'Flaherty, on Transformation Talk Radio. On the second Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, we'll explore your own birth experiences and consider how they might be affecting your current life patterns to start your journey towards self-discovery and healing. For more information, visit shannonbtb.com. That's shannonbtb.com.
Hi, I'm Michelle, creator of the Real Healing Institute. So many clients come to me saying, I've tried everything. Nothing has worked. You're my last resort. When I hear that, I smile because I know I can help them. I tell them, you've come to the right place. You're going to leave feeling better, and they always do. I help people heal themselves at a soul level, resolving the root cause of their struggles through hypnosis regression. Whether it's anxiety, depression, trauma, or something you can't quite name, most of my clients feel a profound shift within just a couple of sessions. These sessions are sacred, compassionate spaces. We don't stop until your issue is resolved. And I'll speak the divinely guided word over you, something unique and powerful for your healing. Many clients describe it as a weight being lifted, like they can breathe deeper for the first time in years. You can book a session with me at therealhealinginstitute.com.
Hi there, welcome back to the Crystal Coach Show. I'm your host, Anahata, and we're talking today with my guest, Andrea Spadafora, about making this journey from a kind of a closed environment into a open, mindful, and aware environment. And he's been telling us about all of his journeys. And we ended with, before the break, we ended with the fact that he was in New Zealand. Well, after he traveled in New Zealand, he was there to remind me that he actually came back to Italy. So what we're going to do is pick up his journey as he went back to Italy. And he wasn't really, I don't think you were yet planning to go to the United States. Were you, Andrea?
No, not yet.
No. Okay. So anyway, here we go. This is the the point at which he has returned to Italy, and with this year of experiences and things that he's done and seen, and accreditation in massage and such. So let's pick up from there. So what happened when you came back to Italy?
Well, number one, I think it needs to be acknowledged that one of the benefits of traveling to New Zealand, not only to discover a new culture, but also I strengthened the communication skills, right? Language, English has never been my native language.
No.
I had to acquire it through time, and it's major adaptation for most of us, right? It's not something that you just innately learn. So
No.
that was the first thing. So once that I acquired the know-how, experiencing life outside of the small town, and recognizing that there is more than one culture, there's more than one race, there's more than one religion, then I set the basis for taking a different leap of faith. And as I mentioned earlier, the United States has always been, it's been a seed that was planted into my brain since I was a young child.
Yes.
So what happens usually is that you tend to gravitate and attract people and situations which eventually will manifest the picture that took years to develop, right? So there is a sort of what I call the quantum to Newtonian transition point. First, the picture appears as a wave. It appears in the metaphysical. You develop a picture that does not have weight, does not have form. And you cannot smell it, see, and hear it.
It's your thought.
And it takes a while to for the universe to align and to present you opportunities. Eventually will lead to where we are today. And so, again, like you said, I was in Italy. I started working again for spas and wellness centers locally. I worked in Sicily first, Sicilia. I worked at a touristic village. While working at the touristic village, I was given another opportunity to go work at another resort in Tuscany. It's called Adler Therme. It's wonderful. It's a German-owned property managed and operated in Italy. It's called Adler Therme, where they have all kinds of magnificent treatments, grottas and saunas, everything you want, and all kinds of massages. So I worked there as an employee, as a salaried employee. And that's where I met another person. That's where essentially the stars aligned in my favor. I met one person, an American photographer, who was at the time shooting a wedding in Lucca, Tuscany. And yeah, so we hit it off. We had a great relationship. She eventually invited me she wanted to reciprocate the hospitality. And she invited me over to Long Island, New York, which was my first port of entry to the United States, even though I only had a 90-day tourist visa. There's not much you can do other than spend your own money when you're here, right? America will always welcome somebody who's got a nice wallet. Everywhere, Visa and credit cards are always
welcome. That's right.
So I use my time wisely here. I wanted to find out what is the right legal immigration process and how to eventually get a social security number, which is essential for employment anywhere here. And so I said, okay, I got to start from the ground up again. I got to start from scratch. I need to get first of all, I have to go to school. So I applied for a student visa, and I paid for the tuition of the Baltimore School of Massage, which, by the way, doesn't exist anymore. But at the time it existed. And that's where I got my American accreditation and which was very interesting. You know, it was so much more in depth and very much better illustrated than the books that I studied in Italy, even though I already had some formal education in Italy about massage. So I did my formal education and training here. I got eventually my license. I got accepted and sponsored by some more wellness centers. I worked for the Red Door Spas, Elizabeth Arden in Gaithersburg, Maryland for a while, which was another corporation. And I was making great money. And then eventually history just showed up. I met my now ex-wife. with whom I had my beautiful, very handsome 10-year-old boy.
Yes, he is very handsome.
Yeah.
Well, going through the process of, getting a legal, paperwork, and also going through the process of coming to this country with the idea that you'd like to stay longer and just actually establish a career here. What did you find going through that process to be inspiring, or maybe a learning opportunity for you?
Well, number one, you need to transcend some of the lower levels of your consciousness. And what I mean by that is that, as in one of my favorite frameworks inspired by Dr. David Hawkins, which we talked about, something that I discovered later, we have low frequency emotions and high frequency emotion. The higher the spiritual energy, the greater the likelihood is that what is held in mind will become manifest. I needed some level of internal shift in awareness, which required me to go from fear, sometimes anger, sometimes grief, sometimes apathy, sometimes depression, and raise my consciousness into higher frequencies, starting at courage, which calibrates 200 on the map of consciousness. So you need a leap of faith, yes. But you also need practical tools in this physicality of the body to apply what you learn.
Right.
And so starting with courage, then you start handling the necessities and the threats and the material world with a different lens, through the lens of love rather than through the lens of fear. Right?
Sure. Right.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what happened.
I preach that all the time. Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
When did you discover yoga? Was it before you got to the United States?
Yes and no. I mean, it was just still at a vague level. I didn't really go into yoga very deeply until I understood what's going on at an energy level.
Yeah, because all the branches of yoga.
Right. Coming from the Western world, Italy is a very, they're very grounded realists in Italy. If you talk about energy work and chakras and Reiki, they will start thinking, most people will not believe you. They're very skeptical. They see through the lens of science. They see yoga through the lens of the woo-woo, the pseudoscience, right? And so I wanted to open my mind a little bit. I wanted to see if so many people believe that that is actually a different level of awareness, right? If you travel to Asia, you see people delivering food and flowers to the statues of their own version of divinity, the way that they conceptualize divinity themselves. So yoga was essentially a pathway out of many others. I wanted to transcend the need of just external validation of getting my six-pack ready for the beach body, so that I could attract more partners and more external approval. And I wanted to go within. I wanted to find a pathway that would take care of all the aspects of my general fitness, starting with flexibility, balance, a little cardio, taking care of the cardiovascular system, and strength. So those are the physical components that attracted me to yoga. I discovered yoga through this gentleman who's still very, very, very famous and is very active. His name is Travis Elliott. Big shout out to Travis Elliott if he listens to this. So he came up with this package, this DVD pack called the Ultimate Yogi, which I still have somewhere. And it's essentially a series of theme classes. You get yoga for strength, yoga for flexibility, yoga for cardio, yoga for core. It was just a low entry point for me to understanding the moves.
Yeah.
And then I continued to practice it alongside with some weight training and some other methods, such as the P90X, which is also a very famous format here in the US. And eventually I took yoga teacher training in sunny Colorado when I moved to Colorado in 2016. I took yoga teacher training because, as you know, Colorado is considered one of the meccas.
Right.
For not only yoga, but for all of the holistic arts.
So you found that yoga was really kind of like the catalyst for just kind of reframing how you approached healing and your work that you're doing, right?
Yes, and eventually all roads lead to Rome. And what I mean by that is that all, it's funny because I'm Italian and I'm the one who says that. Tutte le strade conducono a Roma. It's because what I mean by that is all the roads lead to love. More specifically, unconditional love.
Yes.
To understand unconditional love, you have to understand the unity of life itself. You have to understand that beyond just the conceptual awareness that we're all globally interconnected. We're all came from one source. We will all go back to the same source. So until the discovery of yoga, that wasn't available to me yet. I was still living in the dichotomy of life. It's me versus the world. It is me, the black versus the white. It is the male versus the female. Not versus, but there is always adversarial environments. You see that there's separateness. Yoga was one of the pathways to transcend the illusion of separateness, and also a tool to let go of the need for control. The control of others, the control of what I cannot control.
Exactly.
Not control the uncontrollable. Once you understand life, once you understand these very basic concepts, life reorganizes itself in a way that is harmonious. You see the world through a friendly lens rather than through a fearful lens. So you can see how yoga is so much more than just a physical practice. Yes, it has physical benefits. Yes, you may lose weight. Yes, you may see your abs or you can tone your glutes. That's a byproduct or a consequence, but it's not the goal. The goal is to understanding what's going on internally, right?
Exactly. And this really was the Colorado experience that provided you with all of these new insights around and how you started to show up in your service, right?
Absolutely. And there's also another component. Yoga was also a great, even probably the best. It saved me thousands of dollars in psychological counseling when I went through divorce. How many people, drown in debt, not only for the attorney's fees during divorce proceedings, but also because they don't have a strong framework to understand how to cope with reality and separation, and then eventually divorce and relocations and all of that. So yoga was just like the safe space, the wellness sanctuary that I could always return to, no matter how shitty or good the day went that particular day. Yeah. So I hope that my lived experience could serve others through this testimony.
Yes. And your experience and your testimony is so aligned with, others that I have worked with and others that I know, and even myself. It's really the key is letting go. The key is realizing that the only thing you can really control is how you react to whatever is put in front of you. And that, so that's 100% exactly.
Stoic way to look at it.
Yes, exactly.
Stoicism actually entails the dichotomy of control. Focus exclusively on what it's available in front of you in your 5 feet away reality.
Right.
And by the way, another tool to accomplish that is to repel negativity as much as possible. And in the practical world means stay away from the news, stay away from putting into your mental factory some cement that you don't need.
Exactly.
And in the morning, I start my day fresh as I was born again. I take a deep breath. I go straight to yoga. I see my local community. I make new friends. And I see the beauty, the grace of life itself. Yes, I do connect with my mom. Obviously, I need the roots are always there.
Right.
There is a famous say that I always use with my students. When your roots are deep, there is no reason to fear the wind.
That's true.
So my core identity will stay as a 100% Italian man, even though I have a naturalization certificate on the wall that says I'm also American. But identity is fundamental. As Tony Robbins says, the strongest force that drives the human personality is the need to remain consistent with the way we identify ourselves. So But identity can change over time. You can reframe identity. You can become a non-smoker. You can become somebody who's quit alcohol, excuse me, not quits, that becomes a known drinker. Somebody who is a yogi. So you can choose healthy options in this lifetime. You don't have to be stuck to old ingrained identities.
Right. Well, the journey is still going on. I mean, you left Colorado for the Midwest because of in order to co-parent your child, right?
Yes.
So how has it being a dad shaped your spiritual journey?
Well, there hasn't been one breath that I've taken without thinking of my son. For fathers, children represent the continuation of not only of the family name, but just of life itself. It's just a natural progression that it was built in me. Everything I still do to this day eventually will benefit him. And even though I am a divorced dad, I do not lose a second, and literally 1 second of my parenting plan. We do have a parenting plan. Actually,
sure.
One of the ways to make it work, to make it productive, and to make it non-conflictual in parties that go through divorce is to really, really, really follow your parenting plan religiously as it is. And again, accepting reality for what it is and not for you wish it was.
Right.
So for me, parenting, I had to go through, my ex, relocated to Missouri with our child when he was very young. We had to go through interstate divorce proceedings. It's called the UCCGEA, Uniform Child Custody Enforcement Jurisdiction. It's a lot of long, intertwining between, what our internal beliefs of religion and spirituality versus the reality of what's written in the laws.
Right.
So there is conflict in there, but for the most part, eventually things will get better, and eventually spontaneously things will resolve themselves if you do the right things. As my greatest spiritual master that I praise every day, Dr. David Hawkins, author, by the way, of Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender.
Yes.
He says that everything arises spontaneously by virtue of divine grace. Everything arises as potentiality becoming spontaneously an actuality. It is a field, the field of reality, the field of life itself, that is constantly present, right? Even when we will no longer be in this physical form, it will still be there.
That's right.
And it is beyond time and place, beyond time and place. It has no beginning and no ending. That alone should resolve and give people so much warmth and relief and joy and peace, because ultimately that's what all we're looking for. What we're after is a feeling, not a material possession or a thing or a healthy body. Where we're really truly after here is a feeling.
Well, what about the goals for the future, Andrea? As an entrepreneur that you are, a teacher, a speaker, a translator, just an all-around good guy. What drives you today? What's your drive right now?
Oh, well, I love so much being here in the US. I think that the dynamism, the dynamic flow of the marketplace allows anybody who's got an entrepreneurial idea to move forward with hope, rather than just having to be lost in bureaucracies and heavy burdens. So my goals for right now are very, very small, very, very day by day oriented. My first goal is to essentially grow a solid client base, one day at a time, one human at a time, and eventually set up a practice where I can move into a larger yoga studio or create my own yoga studio and have collaborators, rather than having people working under me or for me under my company. I would much rather enjoy the flexibility and the unconditional love that comes from collaboration rather than competition, or the hierarchies that come from the subtle hierarchy that comes from being the boss. Right. If I hire somebody there's a subtle energy that goes on. Oh, but I'm still the boss and I can still fire you whenever I want. That's not what I want. That's not the energy I'm trying to create. I'm
Gotcha.
trying to create an energy field where everybody at the end of the day goes home happy, has got their own survival first needs met, their emotional needs met, and financial needs met, which is what everybody wants. So to answer your question, I want to create a yoga studio of my own someday, or keep collaborating with more yoga studios and be an instructor at several places, maybe travel the States and visit different studios. And have multiple treatment rooms with multiple modalities, including yours, including you do, Anahata, and having a crystal coach with me.
Yeah, you're learning all about crystals now. Well, as we close out our segment, what do you really want others to know about you, to walk away with today, knowing about you?
Well, the thing that I always say all the time, and I remind myself all the time, every single day when I wake up, is that you have infinite potential. Don't believe in your own self-limiting beliefs. There is nothing more powerful in the world than the human mind, and number one, prayer, believing in a higher power that loves us, not just you as an individual, but as the self with an S capital, which governs everything globally. So knowing that you have God-given talents, knowing that you will be eventually taken care of, knowing that you can let go of the things that do not matter.
That's
right? Focus on the goodness of life. Focus on the interconnectedness of people and individuals, and just believe in yourself. Cultivate yourself. Get higher education. Education is power. If you don't have education yet, pursue education. That's the message.
Fantastic. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah. That is good.
Amen. Hallelujah. We're going to take a really quick break. And when we come back, as usual, I've got some stones for self-care. We're going to be talking about crystals and stones that maybe would help those of you who may find yourself in a similar soul journey support what you're doing. So we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Hey everybody, oh my goodness, we have got talk radio for all of us.
Really, thank you for blazing the trail for women in talk radio and just being such an inspiration to me and so many other people. What you're doing is so awesome. And, you know, without people like you there to like really step out of the box and go for it, I don't know if someone like me would have ever ended up here, but I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, I just want to thank you for everything you're doing. You're one of my major inspirations.
Hi there, welcome back to the Crystal Coach Show. I'm your host, Anahata, and we've been talking with my guest today, Andrea Spadafora, about shifting perceptions and realizing that we're all connected, and the way to having a happier, healthier life is just to let go of the attachments to fear and negative thinking and how we show up for ourselves. So I thought of how could we work in some stones and crystals for self-care for this particular kind of approach. And the first thing I would like to say is that, Andrea, if you had ever had this with you, it probably would have helped you even more in some of the crazy stuff that you've done and gone and traveled in. But this is bloodstone. Bloodstone was actually the stone that the Roman soldiers took into battle to give them the courage to face their fears and do it anyway, right? So bloodstone, I think, would have been a perfect thing for you. And I would recommend it to anyone that is really struggling with the need for change or the need for doing something differently, and yet the fear is paralyzing. The bloodstone frequency is earth-based and it's grounding, but it just kind of helps you to show up for yourself and just do it anyway. right? So you can get past that thing. And once you're past it, they go, oh, well, that wasn't so bad. But you can really kind of freak yourself out thinking it's going to be so much worse than it really is. Speaking of grounding, another thing is smoky quartz. Smoky quartz, I've talked to you a lot about this, but when you feel like you're just way too much up in your head and you can't be present for yourself, the smoky quartz energy brings you right back into your body so you can be here and make your actions from an aligned, grounded energy. Yeah. Let's see here. I have for self-transformation, which is what Andrea did. There's a Petersite energy. Petersite is it's not a common stone, but it is a storm element, one of change and transformation. So Petersite, it's how do we spell this? Pietersite. It's Pie, Peter, but it's pronounced Petersite. Okay. So anyway, that's for self-transformation. Now, I've talked to you about Pneumite before. Pneumite is also a storm element. And you find when you're going through a journey like Andrea went through, where you're really doing a lot of shifting of perceptions and doing a lot of inner work, that Pneumite might support this energy of self-mastery, because it also helps to kind of pull off any old karmic material that no longer serves and is no longer even active, but is maybe weighing you down. So Pneumite is also a really good one. Then when we're staying in the storm category, I've talked to you about this before. This is Moldavite. Moldavite is that beautiful remnant of the explosion of a meteor on the planet Earth billions of years ago, which melted the Earth's crust and sent it up into the air. And as it melted, as it solidified, it formed this kind of odd shapes and squiggles and lines and air bubbles and stuff. It is about transformation. It is the stone of transformation, and it works very powerfully. So be cautious with it, but don't be afraid of it. It helps you really get rid of the stuff that you need to leave behind. Of course, amethyst. Amethyst is always a good one to have for protection and for divine connection, to really kind of bring that awareness of that all of you, the spiritual aspect of yourself, into your physical body. Last but not least, let me see. Oh, and to kind of address the negativity, negative thinking, if you keep having that same kind of wheel going around and round in your head, and it's this old program that says, oh, this will never work, or we're doomed, or, feeling like Chicken Little, the sky is falling. Epidote, Epitote. It looks black, but in the light, it's kind of a dark green. And it's a lot of times you find it within other stones. This happens to be a pure piece of epidote, but it really is, it doesn't matter how big it is, right? The frequency is the same. It's just a matter of whether or not it's louder, right? It's amplified. So if you are how can we say, if you are full of doubt, or I'm sure at some time Andrea had some doubts about, why am I doing this, or what am I doing this for, or all of these things, but that helps to just kind of clear your mind of those kinds of self-defeating negative tracks that run in the mind. Yeah. So Andrea, tell the folks again how they can get a hold of you or find you online.
I don't have a website per se yet. I have a Facebook page, Yogathora, Instagram @Yogathora, phone number 240-645-7786. Also Yogathora on YouTube, my YouTube channel with my long form interviews. which I will hope to have you on my channel as well someday. Thank you so much for hosting
Thank
me.
you. Thank you for being here. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Crystal Coach Show. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now. You have been listening to the Crystal Coach Show, helping you live every day with clarity, guidance, and practical wisdom. With me, your host, Anahata. Tune in every first and third Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time